Saludos a toda la afición de Lucha Libre Online. Este que les habla es Michael Morales Torres, integrante del equipo de Lucha Libre Online. Y tenemos de regreso aquí en el programa al maestro del whisky, a entrevistador y también superestrella del equipo de Impact Wrestling, The Drama King, Matthew Rehwoldt, hace su regreso aquí a Lucha Libre Online. Matthew, it is a pleasure to have you here back on Lucha Libre Online. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing pretty darn good. You're making me, man. I got to pick up Spanish, man. Between having a Hispanic wife and just, the amount it's spoken in this country and around the world, man, I got to get on it. But thank you so much for that great welcome. And did I see you had a glass there?
I did.
Did you do that just for me?
I did. Not because I'm a functional alcoholic. I did.
Bravo.
Man, we'd love to have you here. The first time we had the opportunity to speak with you, you were on the other side of the fence. The second time we had the opportunity to speak with you, you were on the limbo. And now, the third time, Matthew Rehwoldt is home. Matthew Rehwoldt, the Drama King, is on Impact Wrestling. So how did that happen? Who reached out to you? And how do you felt knowing that Impact Wrestling, one of the main pro wrestling companies in the world, was granting you an opportunity to be a part of the roster?
Well, I mean, it was outstanding. And like you said, the last time we spoke, it was in that limbo time. I had just been released from WWE, and during a time that was uncertain, not only for myself, and not only for wrestling, but the whole, world at large. It was a very uncertain year. So I spent a lot of time, figuring things out, seeing where I wanted to go, and reaching out to different avenues, and also exploring different avenues myself. Obviously, I've talked about it before. I'm doing podcasts and Twitch streaming, all kinds of stuff. But I reached out to a couple of friends of mine in Impact Wrestling, notably people like Sami Callihan and Eric Young, who were two good friends of mine, and always were guys who spoke very highly of me, and we had a great relationship. So of course they put in the good word, and just a lot of back and forth. And then eventually this homecoming tournament came up, and the ideas started brewing. I'm like, well, there's the virtuosa Deonna Purrazzo here, who's this very proper, incredible athlete, kind of very walking on air sort of thing. And we're like, that's kind of what the Drama King is too, in his own way, right? And so it seemed the timing and marriage of both style and time, of course, worked out really well. And so it just so happened to work out. And I loved it because that homecoming was the first, outside of Slammiversary, first set of Impact arena tapings that had a live audience once again. It was such a fortuitous time to be brought in, and I couldn't have walked into a better locker room and vibe and atmosphere. And since then, it's just been kicking off.
Interviewer, actor, performer, singer, wrestler, whiskey taster all have one thing in common, and that's, people. They enjoy having the reaction of the crowd. How did the Drama King felt going through that curtain and knowing he was going to be on his new home with his new family, with his audience?
I mean, it was very, very special. And I was telling actually one of my friends this the other day. There's that feeling of, are they going to care? Are they going to remember? Is it going to be silence? Is it going to be? But you never know. And I think as performers, we're always inherently a little insecure. We especially in a year of performing for literally almost no people, we're so used to that live feedback, just like you said. But so there's that nervousness, not only to perform, but to oh, please react, just remember me a little bit sort of thing. And I went out and we did the classic Drama King kind of thing, darkness, spotlight on, which was beautiful. And to my very, very pleasant and I guess I'll say surprised, because I didn't know the audience. There was a big reaction. People were, even though I've traditionally been a bad guy on the television screen, there was a very positive, heartfelt, reaction. And immediately I got comfortable again. I was like, it was bad. It was like you said, it was home. It was like in a wrestling ring in front of a crowd, great reaction. People are vibing. And I was able to just okay, let's go to work. What a great feeling.
Matthew, the ball was on your hands. 5 seconds left. The game is tied, and you scored. You went in all for the win. Diona Purazzo and Matthew Rehwoldt won homecoming. In your debut, you took it all home. How did it make you feel that the company you're working for believe in you as a talent, but the people also had the opportunity to see the real you out there?
Yeah, I mean, that's something huge because like I want to come into a play. I don't want to just come in and just be like, hey, I want to go wrestle a match, or I just want to go like collect a check, or I just want to go and sell some merch, whatever it is. I want to come in and work and do the best business I can for whatever company I'm with. And so when Impact put that faith in me, I wanted to deliver that back to them. And so I was very honored. I was very, pleased with how everything turned out that evening. Like you said, I mean, debut was essentially, 3 matches, one night, one huge tournament. We capitalized on that opportunity. The reactions were great all night long, and they've remained that way. I'm very humbled by the opportunity given at Impact and by everybody there from top to bottom.
Matt, I see your smile. You talk about Impact and you cannot hide it. What makes you so happy about working for Impact Wrestling?
I mean, so I can tell you this. Here's a little inside baseball for you. So my first day, we had set up like, hey, you're going to come in. We're going to do X, Y, Z. I had been doing an independent show the night before.
Okay.
Right. And so I needed to fly in that morning to get there for tapings and everything like that. Well, I woke up that morning to a canceled flight, which is always the worst thing when you're a professional traveler and everything. And it's like 6 a.m. I'm scrambling to find new flights. So immediately, to start, this is my first day on the job. You know what I mean? This is the worst way for me I'm like, I want to make a good impression. We get travel worked out. The Impact travel department is top notch. They were so helpful, but I'm due to circumstances, I get there 3, 4, 5 hours late. I miss a chunk of the taping and a chunk of the show. And I'm like, oh my God, it's sunk, right? This is the Titanic. But to show you exactly the kind of place Impact is, I walked in there and the first thing I hear and see isn't, hey, where it was, are you okay? Thank you for going through all that to get here. They were thanking me. And I was like, are you kidding me? I'm like, thank you for not being like furious. Everybody was just like, they get it. We totally, we're so happy to have you and everything like that. Seeing a lot of my friends, people like, W. Morrissey, Sammy Callahan, Eric Young, Juice Robinson is a good friend of mine. He was there that day. And all the way to people like D'Lo Brown and Scott D'Amore. And, everybody was just like, hey, we're so glad you made it. So immediately there's this warm embrace of an atmosphere that makes you go, oh, this is the place to be.
Shit.
Like, this is the kind of environment it should be. And so that just immediately set me on a high streak.
I want to say something in Spanish to all our Spanish-speaking fans as well before we go to our next question. Impact Wrestling tiene sus tapings en Nashville, en Tennessee, en el Skyway Studios, del 17 al 19 de septiembre, septiembre 17, 18 y 19 en Skyway Studios en Nashville, Tennessee. Desde solo $25 ustedes van a poder ver un manjar de lucha libre. Tienen que darse la oportunidad. Si están en Nashville, si están cerca, si quieren viajar del 17 al 19 de septiembre, es el momento para hacerlo. Boletos disponibles en eventbrite.com, que va a estar aquí abajo en la descripción ya para adquirir esos boletos. Y Victory Road es su próximo evento el 18 de septiembre. Va a haber muchas superestrellas en acción. Christian Cage defiende ante Ace Austin, entre muchísimas otras luchas y de buenos talentos. Matt va a estar en acción y lo pueden ver a través de Fight TV, lo pueden ver a través de Impact Plus. Hay varias alternativas. O si están allí en el Skyway Studios, desde solo $25 en eventbrite.com. Now let's go back into the conversation. You were on a different environment. People consider it a toxic environment. People consider it a good environment. Like, it depends on who you talk to about it. But you enter into a new chapter of your career, and everyone was so happy to see you there. Everyone was so happy to have you as part of the roster, as their partner. How do you felt, walking into that backstage area for the first time, and not, no one gave you crap for missing a flight. No one was mad at you. Everyone was was happy. Like, you didn't miss a flight. It wasn't your fault. It was the airline's issue. So everyone understood. How do you felt being welcome and greeted and loved and hugged by everyone?
I mean, as I said earlier, it was outstanding. I mean, that's the immediately walking into the backstage, like it was almost within a millisecond of just like the tight-knit community in the locker room. Everybody's cool, everybody's relaxed, but at the same time is there to, you know, kick butt and like do their best work on television, everything. But, you know, everybody was just so welcoming. There was, you know, it's an athletic environment. A lot of time there, you know, you hear stories about, you know, egos and all this stuff. And especially, you know, with places like WWE and other companies, sometimes there can be the new person walks in and it's, you know, who's this guy? Who they're coming to take what's mine and all this stuff. There was none of that there. Everybody was just high fives, hugs, and let's go out and do the best business we can.
Man, that's so refreshing to hear. I've been in a toxic environment backstage, and it's definitely not good. Not a good place to be. Let's talk about the person you are married to. We started this interview before we started. It appears Shaul Guerrero in your name. You're married to a Latina, and not knowing enough Spanish can be either a blessing or a curse. Latinos and Latinas are really passionate about life and everything. So how's being life married to a Latina, having a Latina mother-in-law, you know, surrounded by Latin America? You're part of the Latin American community, man. How does that feel?
I mean, it is, it's amazing. It is something. So it's funny. I come from, and my family's amazing too. I come from a very kind of old school Irish Catholic family, right? And so we very loving family. And they're amazing. But it's funny. We've always been, with like our emotions and everything like that, we're kind of very steady, very, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that. It's all good and everything. But with my wife, and she'll tell me all the time, so like, you know, we Latinos, we fight hard, but we love hard. Yeah. You know, it's very, very fiery. You know, Latina heat is a very real thing. And so it's very, very passionate. And so it's always exciting. There's always a lot of love and a lot of fire, a lot of spice. You know, I mean, I don't mean that as in the traditional way, but it's very exciting, and there's a lot of passion there between us. And so she's shown me a lot of that in life. You
started, you open your own YouTube channel, Wrestling with Whiskey, for all fans out there. You do subscribe there. It's a great thing. If you like whiskey, if you don't and you want to start, you know, trying, he presents you different alternatives of budget whiskeys, bourbon, Scotch, Irish, basically everything. But over there, you change a little bit your content, and Matthew Rehwoldt is now an interviewer. Matthew Rehwoldt interviews his friends, his partners, but you don't look, you know, for the classic, you know, let's dig in the dirt, let's get some blood. No, you want them to know your friend, the human side of people. So what motivated you first to become an interviewer, and second to be that type of interviewer?
Well, honestly, I had no aspirations of being like an interviewer, being like a podcaster. You know, I started that channel. I have a little side passion for like tasting and collecting whiskey and stuff like that, and the whole experience of that. And so I was just looking for different styles of content for the channel. You know, I can only do so many just review, right, and tastings. So I'm like, you know what? Like, I know a couple of the guys in the back who enjoy a whiskey. I'm like, I don't want to do, if I'm going to talk to someone, I don't want to do just straight up wrestling interview, because there's a lot of those, there's a lot of podcasts like that out there. So I want to do something different. So I'm like, how about I introduce them to my world? And so I'll send them 3 blind samples. They don't know what it is. And then we'll pour them and we'll drink them. We'll talk a little bit of wrestling. We'll talk life. We'll talk about, you know, just our experiences. But in between, I'll kind of basically walk them through a whiskey tasting. Whether they love it or hate it, it depends. It's almost better sometimes if they're not whiskey fans, because they're experiencing something totally brand new. And they give me some really poignant insights sometimes, which is really interesting. And so it's just like there's this hook for, you know, if you are a whiskey fan, you don't know much about wrestling, you're going to watch them experience the whiskey. If you're a wrestling fan who doesn't know much about whiskey, you're going to watch some of your favorite wrestlers and you might learn a little bit about a whiskey. So I'm trying to bridge that gap there and have fun conversations along the way. And so far it's been awesome.
Also want to say something else in Spanish. Matt Rehwoldt está disponible en todas las redes sociales. Asimismo, lo pueden buscar a través de cameo.com. Está disponible para shoutouts como Matt Rehwoldt, prowrestlingtees.com/Matt Rehwoldt para t-shirts y mercancía. Está disponible en Discord, está disponible en Twitch, está disponible en Instagram, en Twitter, en todos lados como Drama King Matt. Vayan y síganlo, lo que está haciendo está excelente. Matt, you've done many things, man. But one of the things I want to talk about is what you're doing today. Like, you are a streamer as well. You work on Twitch, and your mother-in-law, Vicky Guerrero, entered into that world for a while. Were you the person responsible or behind her decision?
No, I wasn't. I believe it was some of her comrades at AEW who kind of encouraged her to give it a try. But I will tell you this, I was one of the first people she reached out to figure out how to kind of, she's like, everyone's telling me I should do this. How do I do it? Kind of thing. And so I kind of tried to walk her through. I think I even made her, I wonder if I still have it. I made her a little like tutorial video on how to use like OBS and how to like add your camera and add the video game video or add this and like how to use the software. So I tried my best to walk her through that. So maybe not my original idea, but definitely I would like to think I helped her kind of get going.
You were born in Chicago. You've been a Chicago guy all your life. You could have moved everywhere. Like, you could go to LA, you could go to Florida. Hell, you could go to the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Mexico, basically everywhere you want to go. Why your home state, your home city is the place to be? Why do you decided to stay there, even though you can, you know, move basically everywhere?
I mean, man, home is home. There's no place like it. You know what I mean? Dorothy said it for a reason. There's no place like home. And it really, like, yeah, I lived in Florida for a long time, you know, with NXT and all that stuff. And on moving to the main roster and wrestling around, yeah, I had the opportunity to live wherever I want. I could stay in Florida, I could go to Texas, just like you said, anywhere I wanted. But, and on paper, it doesn't really make sense to come back to Chicago. You know, there's you know, things, taxes, all this stuff. You know, on paper, it probably made sense to go somewhere a little bit different. But man, family is here, and there's something about the city of Chicago that I don't know. I take a lot of pride in, like
pizza.
And yes. The infamous deep dish pizza. It is here in droves. But more than that, man, you know what I mean? There's a feeling, there's a vibe, there's an atmosphere here. There's something. I live downtown in the city, and like, I can't imagine living anywhere else. Life may take me at some point to somewhere else, depending on, you know, what happens. But while I still have a say in it, man, you know, home is home.
Before we go to our last question, shopimpact.com para mercancía de Impact Wrestling. Síganlos en YouTube, suscríbanse a su canal de YouTube como Impact Wrestling. Tienen suscripciones desde $1, desde $5 para interactuar con todos los talentos, para ver la programación semanal, solo $1 en Impact Wrestling en YouTube. Vayan allá, adquiéranlo, al igual que adquieran el app de Impact Plus. Está excelente. Denle la oportunidad a Impact Wrestling, una empresa que definitivamente tiene mucho que ofrecer. También tienen su subasta en ebay.com. Los pueden buscar como Impact Wrestling. Tienen memorabilia firmada, tienen bate rodeado con el alambre de púa de Sami Callihan, tienen de todo un poco, hasta mercancía de Matt Rehwoldt, así que búsquenlo en eBay. Matt, thank you very much for your time, man. It's been a total blast to have you back here. Last but not least, the world is your oyster. Impact Wrestling is allied to companies like AEW, to companies like New Japan Pro Wrestling, AAA. Basically, you have a whole sea in your hands right now, but your home, Impact Wrestling, is full of talent. You mentioned some of them: Eric Young, W. Morrissey, among many other guys in their roster. Ace Austin, Josh Alexander is a phenomenal wrestler. Is there a particular name that you'd be interested in wrestling against that person?
I mean, God, you just mentioned a couple of them. There's such a depth of talent in the Impact Wrestling locker room. We talked about some of my friends who are already there between Eric Young and Juice Robinson, W. Morrissey. Sami Callihan, obviously, is a stalwart of Impact Wrestling. But people like that I hadn't met prior to working at Impact. Guys like who I've been involved with recently. Trey Miguel is an incredible performer. You mentioned Josh Alexander, the current X Division champion, is a machine in the ring. But then there's also guys like Chris Sabin, who, you know, again, another stalwart of the brand. Moose is an incredible athlete. And I would be remiss if I didn't, you know, mention Christian Cage, our current world champion, you know, a personal kind of hero of mine. And somebody I look up to a lot and love the fact that he's carrying the banner right now for Impact. So if I, you know, ever got a chance to lock horns with Christian Cage himself, it would be an absolute honor.
Man, you have a world full of possibilities around. Mahabali Shera, Rohit Raju as well are there. There are a lot of good talent, both in the male side and the female side. Roster is incredible. We wanted to thank Ross and the PR team for making this possible, and you for your time. Always wishing you success, man, in your career, in your personal life, in all your projects. And man, let's hope to have you here once again, but next time with a title, either in your waist, in your shoulder. And man, cheers to having you back here in Lucha Libre Online. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Y este fue Michael Morales Torres y Matt Rehwoldt, The Drama King, para Lucha Libre Online.